Carlos Sainz literally had to wait 101 races to finally get on a Formula 1 podium. Yeah, seriously. But still, to be honest, it is nothing compared to Hülkenberg's 239 races. The 101 races from Sainz are over 5 full seasons of driving in circles, getting close, and watching someone else drink champagne while he got a handshake and just a bottle of water. He started his F1 career in 2015, same year as Max Verstappen. While Max was already being hyped as the next F1 god, Carlos was just the other guy at Toro Rosso, and that other guy label stuck for years. But then came Brazil 2019. Finally, the curse broke. Kinda. He crossed the line in 4th. Good, but still no trophy. Then, surprise! Lewis Hamilton got a penalty for crashing into Albon. That moved Carlos up to 3rd place, but he found out after the race. No podium ceremony, no trophy on live TV, no champagne, just a phone call and probably a slow clap in the McLaren garage. Imagine waiting 101 races for your first podium and you don't even get to stand on it. Not nice, don't you think? Since then, Carlos has done much better. Moved to Ferrari, got poles, even won a race. He's now a proper top driver. But that long wait, you can still see it in his eyes every time Ferrari messes up a pit stop. The trauma is real. So yes, Carlos waited long to get a podium. But now, finally, so is Hülkenberg. After 14 years, 200 plus races, and more almost than Ferrari strategy meetings, he pulled it off. British Grand Prix, Silverstone, July 6, 2025, P3. The paddock exploded, the memes died, and Hülkenberg, he looked like a man who had just ended a personal war with the F1 gods. Seriously, legends say that Hülkenberg was flabbergasted that he got free water for reaching the podium. Martin Brundle. Before he became that guy with the mic chasing celebrities on the grid, Martin Brundle was a proper Formula 1 driver. But not just any driver. He was the prototype for always solid, never lucky. Sound familiar? If Hülkenberg was looking for someone who lived the same unlucky story before him, it would be Martin Brundle in the 1990s. Now, Martin had speed. He also had teammates like Ayrton Senna and Michael Schumacher, so naturally, he spent most of his career getting dunked on by history. Every time Brundle did something decent, one of those guys would do something superhuman. But here's the thing. It took Martin 91 races before he got a podium. That's 5 full seasons of turning up, racing hard, and going home with nothing shiny. If that doesn't scream midfield suffering, I don't know what does. But when he did finally get on the podium, 1992 French Grand Prix, driving for Benetton, it wasn't some epic underdog story either. He was second fiddle to Schumacher, again. Michael was doing Schumacher things. Brundle just happened to not crash and was there at the end. Congrats. Here's 3rd place and a bottle of sparkling, finally. It was like getting a thank you card after 10 years at a company that never gave you a raise. But the funniest part? Even though he finally got a podium, people still remember Brundle more for not getting one earlier. He was the face of podiumless legends long before Hulk picked up that baton and ran with it. Oh, and let's not forget, after retiring, Brundle became a commentator and has spent years watching other people get podiums. Imagine that. You wait 91 races to stand on one, and then you spend the rest of your life talking about others doing it every weekend. Justice, maybe. Irony, definitely. So yes, Brundle waited not as long as Hülkenberg, but at least when he got it, it didn't take 15 years. Mika Salo. Mika Salo's F1 career was like a side quest that accidentally gave him a trophy. He spent years floating around the midfield. Tyrrell, Arrows, Bar, the kind of teams that make you question your life choices by lap 5. The cars were slow, the budgets were sad, and the podiums nowhere in sight. Salo was a solid driver. Brave, technical, good in tricky conditions. But nobody was putting him on their future world champ list. He was just there, driving decently. Watching other people get the good stuff? Boring, right? It took him 73 races to finally land on a podium, and he didn't even do it in his own car. Enter Ferrari, 1999. Michael Schumacher broke his leg. Ferrari needed someone to fill the seat while they tried to win their first title in forever. And somehow, the call went to Mika Salo. Yep, the guy who'd spent his whole career racing lawnmowers got the keys to the Red Rocket. Okay. But what does he do? Immediately proves he's been underrated all along. He finishes second at the 1999 German Grand Prix. It should have been a win too. He was leading. But Ferrari told him to let Irvine through because, team orders. Imagine, you spend your entire career fighting for scraps, finally get a top car, finally lead a race, and then your own team tells you to pull over and let the other guy pass. That's not heartbreak, that's sadness. Still, P2 is P2. It was his only podium, but at least he made it count. Now, Salo may have only waited 73 races, but he did it the hard way, through years of hopeless cars, underfunded teams, and that glorious gut punch of a Ferrari cameo. He didn't wait as long as Hülkenberg, but he came close enough to understand the pain, and probably toasted Nico with that 1999 champagne, just out of sympathy. Johnny Herbert. Johnny had one of the most F1 giveth and F1 taketh away careers of the modern era. He was fast, fearless, and absolutely cursed. This is a guy who, before even making it to Formula 1, shattered both his legs in a crash so violent it basically turned his ankles into paperclips. Most people wouldn't walk again. Johnny. He was in an F1 car a few months later, hobbling into a cockpit, unable to walk properly, still driving at 200 miles per hour like nothing happened. He was that dude. But Formula One didn't care about his bravery. It just kept serving him undercooked team choices and cars that drove like shopping carts with a loose wheel. Benetton, Lotus, Sauber, solid midfield meat grinders. He had the skill to mix it with the big boys, but never the car to actually do it. So he waited and waited through 70 races of maybe next time, almost P4, and why is my engine on fire again? But then came the 1995 Spanish Grand Prix. Benetton gave him a half-decent car, and by some miracle, everything didn't fall apart. He finally finished on the podium, 3rd place. Sweet, sweet champagne. But then, plot twist, 2 months later, he actually won a race. That's right, after 70 races of nothing, the man won 2 Grands Prix in the same year. It's like waiting forever to be invited to the party. And then winning the whole damn karaoke contest. But even then, it was messy. His own teammate, Michael Schumacher, barely acknowledged him. The team made it very clear Johnny was the side character in their title-winning movie. No love, no credit, just good job. Now go park it. So yes, Herbert didn't wait as long as Hülkenberg, but he knew the pain. Jenson Button, honestly, this guy had all the bad luck of the world. He debuted in 2000, all baby-faced and British, hailed as the next big thing. He was smooth, fast, stylish, and instantly dropped into a car that handled like a wet mattress. Williams, Benetton, Bar, he rotated through teams like they were speed dating flops. And every time you thought, this might be it, boom, engine failure, pit stop disaster, or just plain midfield mediocrity. 69 races. That's how long it took him to land on a podium. And by F1 standards, that's not record-breaking. But for Jenson, it felt like a lifetime of knocking politely on the door while the sport screamed no in his face. It finally happened in the 2004 Malaysian Grand Prix. He finished 3rd. And the F1 world collectively went, oh so, he can do it. That podium unlocked him. After that, he got 2 more podiums that year, then a bunch of 4th places, then another podium, and then the gods said, yeah, alright, give him a win then. But it still took him 113 races to win. So if we're being real, his entire early career was just a masterclass in waiting patiently while the sport tried to gaslight him into quitting. Here's the thing though, Button never whined, never threw helmets, never rage-punted a rival. He just smiled, said, we'll keep working, and then got back in the car like a human version of herbal tea. So no, he didn't wait as long as Hülkenberg for that first podium, but the road was rocky, full of false hopes, and he still ended up with 15 wins and a title. Nico is the G-O-A-T. Pedro de la Rosa. Pedro de la Rosa, the nicest guy in the paddock, and possibly the most ignored man in F1 history. This guy spent most of his career as a test driver, but when he did get to race, it was usually in cars that looked like they were held together by duct tape and team optimism. Arrows, Jaguar, HRT. He basically drove every car that engineers designed while half asleep. He made his F1 debut in 1999. It took him 7 years and 67 race starts before he finally got on a podium. And it wasn't just any podium, it was Hungary 2006 in a McLaren, a proper top-tier car. You know, the kind he probably should have had earlier but didn't because Spanish passport and politics. Now let's be real. Pedro wasn't flashy. He didn't crash people off the track. He didn't pull double overtake magic tricks. He was a workhorse. Mr. Consistency, a guy teams trusted to bring the car home in one piece and then probably write them a thank you email after. But in Hungary, the rain came, chaos unfolded, and somehow, through all the madness, Pedro found himself running second. Yes, second, behind Button, who was also having his own finally moment. Pedro pushed, he chased, he closed the gap, and then the tires fell off, literally. He ended up 2 pesos, and you know what? It was glorious. It was the only podium of his career. 1 shot, 1 trophy, 1 moment where everyone went, wait, De La Rosa? That guy? Yes, that guy. He didn't wait as long as Hülkenberg, but he did everything the hard way. Backup rolls, bad cars, testing endless tire compounds, and never complaining. He was the ultimate good soldier of F1, fighting everyone else's war, finally getting a medal of his own. And Hülkenberg? He probably watched Pedro's Hungary drive and thought, cool, maybe one day I'll get mine too. And the mission is finally completed. Esteban Ocon. Ocon has always had main character energy. The only problem? F1 didn't give him a script for the first 5 seasons. He came in young, confident, and with that kind of aggressive but clean driving style that screams, I belong here. But instead of climbing podiums, he spent most of his early career bouncing between Force India, Renault, and whatever wasn't totally falling apart this season racing. 66 races. That's how long it took before Ocon finally got his podium moment. And oh boy, when he did. It wasn't some boring P3 in a quiet race. Nah, Esteban's first podium was a win. A Sakhir Grand Prix 2020. A race so cursed it made the usual midfield chaos look like a chess match. George Russell was subbing in for Hamilton, Bottas was bottling everything, and the Mercedes pit crew decided to cosplay as amateurs. Amidst the confusion, Ocon just survived. No drama, no ego, just clean laps and the emotional strength of a monk. He crossed the line in P2, but because of Perez's win, it still felt like he'd just climbed Everest with Alpine written on his helmet. But let's not forget, by this point he'd already been dropped from the grid once. Yeah, booted, benched, left to simulators while Lance Stroll got his seat. He clawed his way back, fought off the doubts, and when the chaos opened the door, Ocon walked through it like a man who'd been waiting 66 races to say, told you so. So sure, 66 races is nothing compared to Hülkenberg's 239, but Ocon still wore the same frustration, the same feeling of, when's it my turn? And when it finally happened, he made it count. Giani Morbidelli. He sounds like a guy who should have been a Ferrari legend. His F1 career was basically a mixtape of bad teams and worse timing. He drove for Minardi, Footwork, Sauber, and occasionally Ferrari, though let's be clear, that last one was only because they ran out of bodies in '91. The man spent more time in the back half of the grid than most TV directors spend not showing the midfield. 62 races before he finally got a podium, and even that came wrapped in a giant asterisk. 1995 Australian Grand Prix. Last race of the season. Carnage, absolute chaos. Cars were dropping like flies. If your engine didn't explode or your gearbox didn't go on strike, you were already ahead of half the field. It was like a survival horror movie, but with V10s. But somehow, through all of it, Morbidelli just didn't crash. That's it. That was the strategy. Just finish the damn race. He came home in P3, probably looking as shocked as everyone else. His only career podium, his last career points. That was the peak. That was the curtain call. And unlike Hülkenberg, Morbidelli didn't have 200 more chances to try again. That was it. One magical day when the stars aligned, the attrition god smiled, and he brought home a trophy in a car that usually brought home smoke and regret. So yeah, 62 races isn't 239. But it felt like 239 when you consider the machinery he had. And just like Hulk, he was good. Not great, not legendary, but good enough to deserve more. Just beautifully.